Is masturbation healthy? 60-second truth. There are so many questions surrounding masturbation. Is it okay to do it every day? Is it bad for me? Will it make me infertile? And should I stop if I want to have kids in the future? Well, today we're gonna get real about this often taboo subject and answer these questions. I'm a urologist and pelvic surgeon, and if you're new here, I make urologic content regularly. So make sure if you like what you see, you share this channel with your friends. So let's get right into it. Is masturbation healthy? Yes, it is normal and healthy. In fact, most people, not even most people, 90% of men and 54% of women admit to masturbating at some point in their life. And it has been found that 82% of men between the ages of 18 and 40 currently masturbate. Now, why wouldn't it be healthy? It's something that is completely normal and natural. You might say, well, I heard that it causes infertility or erectile dysfunction later on. That is actually not true. There's no evidence to support that frequent masturbation causes infertility or erectile dysfunction. In fact, some people may find that masturbation can even help treat erectile dysfunction because it helps increase blood flow to the penis. You may be asking yourself, well, how often is too much? Or how often is considered frequent? Well, there's no magic number for how often is okay or not okay or normal or abnormal. In fact, if you're under 18 years old and masturbating less than once per month, that's actually considered abnormal. But then from age 18 to 40, it's considered normal if you redoing it somewhere between several times a month to several times a week. Over the age of 40, once a month or less is considered normal. However, the frequency doesn't really matter. What matters is if it's causing you distress or interfering with your relationships or your daily functioning. If it's not, then it's completely fine. A lot of people feel guilty or anxious or stressed when they think about masturbating. And this is called masturbation-related distress. And that itself is not good for you. Stress is never a good thing. And that could be detrimental to your mental health. So if you feel guilty or ashamed or worried about doing it, then maybe you need to take a step back and reevaluate why you feel that way. If you're worried about why you're having such frequent episodes of masturbation, I've made a video about psychogenic erectile dysfunction, which talks about essentially issues that can cause someone to have an increased desire for sex or masturbation. And those can be things like anxiety, depression, boredom, loneliness, stress, and lack of sleep. All of those can contribute to having more frequent episodes of masturbation. And so if you're concerned about your mental health and you're trying to figure out if this is a problem, then it's a good idea to talk to a therapist or a counselor who can help you go through any underlying issues that might be contributing to it. Another concern that people have is, will it make my prostate bigger? So there was a study that looked at men who had enlarged prostates and they wanted to determine if there was a link to masturbation. And they basically found that men who masturbated less frequently were more likely to have an enlarged prostate. So actually, masturbating more frequently may be protective against an enlarged prostate. What about if I'm a woman? Is it healthy for me? Well, yes, absolutely. Women can also experience orgasms from masturbation, and that can be very healthy for them. It's a great way to learn about your own body and self-pleasure. However, if you're a woman who wants to have children in the future, you may be concerned about if masturbation affects your fertility or your ability to get pregnant. So there has been a large study that looked at almost 1,500 women who were trying to get pregnant. And they were divided into two groups. One group were women who masturbated and the other were women who did not masturbate. They looked at various things including the time it took them to get pregnant, the number of times they had intercourse in a month, and their success rate of getting pregnant. And what they found was that there was no difference in the ability to get pregnant in either group. So women who masturbated were just as likely to get pregnant as those who didn't. And the reason for this is because the female orgasm does not involve ejaculation. So during ejaculation, there is a release of semen from the male body, which contains sperm. And so theoretically, if you're releasing semen, then you might be depleting your body of sperm and making it harder to get pregnant. However, in females, during orgasm, there is no release of anything. So you're not changing the amount of eggs that are available to be fertilized. So women who masturbate do not have any change in their fertility and are just as likely to get pregnant as those who do not. Some women may be concerned about using certain toys during masturbation and whether those toys can cause problems in terms of fertility. So there are certain toys that are available over the counter that vibrate. And these are typically safe to use. However, there are other types of toys that are more internal and that may be associated with toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock syndrome is something that's usually caused by bacteria getting into the bloodstream. It's extremely rare and typically happens after using super absorbent tampons or leaving in a vaginal contraceptive sponge too long. So if you're using some of these toys that are inserted vaginally, it's important to clean them thoroughly before inserting them and not leave them inside the vagina overnight. Also, it's not a good idea to use them if you have an open wound or an active bacterial infection in the area. Because of this risk of toxic shock syndrome, if you're trying to get pregnant, it's probably a better idea to avoid using any toys during masturbation and stick with vibrating toys that are external rather than internal. Lastly, some women may be concerned about using lube during masturbation. There are many different types of lubes available over the counter and these are generally safe to use. However, if you're trying to get pregnant, it's a good idea to avoid using any sort of chemical-based lubricants. Chemical-based lubricants are typically petroleum jelly-based or mineral oil-based. And while these are generally considered safe, they haven't been studied specifically for their safety when trying to get pregnant. There are certain natural water-based lubes that are available that have been studied to show that they do interfere with fertility. And so those are probably a safer bet. Otherwise, you can always ask your doctor or your OB/GYN what they recommend in terms of lubricants when trying to get pregnant. Bottom line, masturbation is a normal and healthy part of sexual expression. As long as it's not causing you distress, interfering with your relationships or your daily life, you should enjoy it guilt-free. As always, I hope you guys found this interesting. And if you did, please share this video with your friends. As always, remember to take care of yourself because you're worth it.